Not that I wasn't doing videos before. I just been on BitChute, Odysee, and Rumble. That's where you will find me most of the time. Taking a chance that I could get a strike on this, but giving it a chance because I know I've had this YouTube channel for a long time, mostly so I could look at other brothers' videos and still continue hosting on BitChute, Rumble, and Odysee, where my videos weren't being taken down. Nonetheless, though, and this part of it is on the Rumble because I don't want to get Elder Brother Malcolm in trouble, because forwarding, but nonetheless, though, hey, yes, Esau is our brother, but he hates us and is doing everything he can to destroy us because he's jealous because we got the blessing and he didn't. And like everything else, though, his kingdom is coming to an end. And it's very interesting as you read this article. They're literally calling it the City of Confusion, Land of Confusion, which was also a popular song by the group Genesis with Phil Collins. They're calling it the City of Confusion, the Land of Confusion, right? Because again, it's going to be hit with a tumultuous noise. That tumultuous noise is nuclear destruction. Land of Confusion, the Great Reset in motion, because like everything else, though, before this great destruction, he's going to come down having great wrath, trying to implant everyone with a microchip to control their every movement. And anybody not teaching the microchip is the MOTB, is going to get destroyed, ultimately. He's going to get caught up in this, because they have misled the flock, and many people are going to end up taking it. They're going to take that implant. The global disruptions we have seen in recent years are frequently presented as a chaotic sequence of events: pandemic, inflation, energy shortages, and war. All things happening now. Well, they got that correct. Little wonder that most people are confused. However, structural analysis reveals more deliberate, controlled demolition of the 20th century social contract. The engine of this transition was a desperate financial stabilization strategy carried out by the means of a public health event. Thus, 2020 was considered the Great Reset, and that other C-19 was the very front of it, written by Dr. Fucky. They were literally telling you that it was a manufactured event so they could do this. By freezing the real economy through lockdown, central banks performed massive liquidity injections to save the banking financial tier. If that money had entered a functioning economy, it would have triggered hyperinflation. By keeping the population at home, the elite performed a stealth bailout that preserved the dominance of the financial class by sacrificing the productive middle class. So it was pretty much done on purpose. If Germany continued to integrate with Russia and China, it would have created a power role independent of the US dollar. The conflict in Ukraine served a purpose. It resulted in Germany replacing the Russian pipeline gas and being forced into a massive build-out of liquefied natural gas infrastructure and reliance on LNG from the US. Unlike pipeline gas, LNG must be supercooled, shipped, and regasified, a process that is inherently 3 to 4 times more expensive. So you can see what's going on with the economies over there, right? That's going to slow down every mass production. The whole world was shut down in 2020, but you can see, though, that this is all done deliberate because it was, it doesn't matter who wears a clown suit, whether it's Biden or it's Trump. We definitely believe Trump to be that fierce king and cruel lord that Egypt, that Isaiah chapter 9 talks about, when he to bring the calamity upon Egypt, which is another term for Babylon the Great, the City of Confusion. Under this regime, a permanent emergency industrial action, protest, or systematic critique can be branded as a malign foreign influence or subversion, allowing the state to use new, expansive policing powers to suppress the internal friction. So like everything else, though, during this time process, you heard about bank bail-ins, and again, here's what happened. The population was no longer an asset, but a fiscal liability. The state moves from care to managing exit. It's no accident that we have seen calls for the rapid legislation of assisted suicide across the West. It might also help to explain the prescribing of mid-hazam and do not resuscitate orders in care homes during the pandemic event. Data shows that the UK purchased vast quantities of mid-hazam, which is a drug that is meant to help you kill yourself. By accelerating the offboarding of non-productive elderly, those that are considered worthless eaters, the system wipes billions in future pension liabilities off the state balance sheet. Meanwhile, digital ID and central bank digital currencies create a system of total surveillance in this emerging system. The citizen is replaced by the managed subject whose access to the economy is contingent upon a social credit score. So, welcome to the Great Reset. If you hadn't guessed, we've been in it 5 years. And everything was leading towards that. And you know that the digital dollar, the digital wallet, was even hinted about in 2020 when Nancy Pelosi made the statement that those stimulus checks that Trump was supposed to give out, they wanted a digital dollar. So it's just a matter of kicking that can down the road. And don't forget, just recently though, yeah, they kicked the can down the road, but it took them over a month to do so, the longest shutdown in history. And the can was only kicked down the road till the end of January. So, it gives you a good idea what 2026 is in for. And not to mention, EBT, other programs such as Section 8 and all that, were all threatened. In fact, people didn't get their EBT that whole month until the crisis was nearly over. But like everything else, though, it was done all on purpose, just like 2020 was. And so, like everything else, though, there's even more going on behind the scenes. There's always more going on behind the scenes, as this video gets into, and again, not trying to get him in trouble. I'll play it from this source, because like everything else, though, I think I'll just keep this part, not to get him in trouble, but his channel can be found here for those that are on YouTube. I'll just put it upon see if I can find it. So, let me see. There it is. So, right there. And that was 2 days ago. So, you can play this video. Candace Owen exposes the hidden truth behind slavery in the U.S. So, you already know her. She's kind of like she's a Jake whistleblower. So, I'm going to copy that link. This is how I get these on the other. But nonetheless, though, here's what's going on. U.S. piracy cripples Venezuela's oil industry as ports pile up with tankers. Washington has intensified its regime change efforts against Venezuela, illegally shutting down the country's airspace and imposing naval blockade that seeks to starve the population of over 30 million. So similar to what's going on in Gaza, because those people are being starved out and they're in the cold right now. And these fucking gutter rats, yeah, you think Trump is bad, but then again, he works for those Israelis. He works for those Amalekites. So everything that he does is going to echo what's going on in Gaza. Not to mention, it's Trump's Gaza peace plan. See how the king of Babylon is right along with them, right? And they're going to make their habitations desolate because of them. Washington's illegal blockade of Venezuela and its theft of oil tankers in the Caribbean have paralyzed the country's oil industry, according to several reports in Western media. Venezuela's ports are piling up with tankers filled with oil as officials fear releasing them into international waters and into the crosshairs of the U.S. tankers bound for Venezuela have turned around midway. Shipping data shows, the New York Times reported on the 23rd of December. So like everything else, though, they are continuing to hit them. And you already know that he said this, that they'll keep the seized oil. So we'll play that little clip. Fair use. I have to say that because Elder Brother Malcolm always says that. So, just paralleling that. I haven't been on YouTube for a while, as you can tell. So, I know some things I have to... But nonetheless, though, U.S. blockade... forget it. Get off. Forget it. I'm not going to play it. I'll just play it from here. See if I could just press the play button. Yeah, I can. Hold on. Slovakia.
Going to do with what?
The oil that has been seized. The United States seized 1.9 million barrels of oil on December 10th.
We're going to keep it. We're keeping.
Where's it? Are we going to sell it or put it in the strategic?
Maybe
oil
we'll sell it. Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll use it in the strategic reserves. We're keeping it. We're keeping the ships also. Yeah.
So, like everything else, so just like he admitted about Syria, that they're keeping the oil. So, you know, that's the Valley of Jehoshaphat, in case you couldn't guess. Nonetheless, though, Trump tells Colombian president to watch his ass. U.S. leader accused Bogota of allowing cocaine trafficking and stepped up pressure against Gustavo Petro. Now, like everything else, though, I believe I read this yesterday because it wouldn't have been down like that. But I just have to reiterate that, you know, he's pretty much not just calling for a regime change in Venezuela, he's coming for Colombia, too. Trump's remark following comments by Petro reacting to the U.S. seizures of Venezuela oil ships, in which he claimed all of the southern U.S. was built on stolen land. And he was right. And Trump remarked, you know, because he went on to say Texas and California were invaded and demanded that the U.S. give back what they stole. Good luck with that. He's very bad guy, and he's got to watch his ass because he makes cocaine and then sends it to the U.S. Bullshit. The only ones running cocaine are those poppy fields that you seized in Afghanistan. That's why you want the base back. You had a great drug run, but now you are pissed off because you can't get the base back. You know, because that did get shut down, and like everything else, so you want control over the drugs, which is another reason you're going in there. You know, because you want control of the drugs, so you're not making a lot of money off of it. So you're trying to save the drug industry because you took that from the Russians. But like everything else, though, you know, you blame the other countries when it was you yourself. Trump said Monday that his Mar-a-Lago residents in Florida responded to a reporter's question about Petro's remarks. We love the Colombian people, but no, you don't. Colombia has been planning, you know, so pretty much, though, you know, he just saying that he better watch his ass. So, you know, continued escalations, right? You know, as he's threatening Colombia's leader as well. U.S. moves additional troops and special operations aircraft to the Caribbean as it escalates against Venezuela. The report, citing U.S. officials and flight tracking data, said that at least 10 CV-22 Osprey tilt-rotor aircraft assigned to Special Operations Forces flew into the region Monday night from Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. C-17 cargo planes from Fort Stewart in Georgia and Fort Campbell, which is located on the Tennessee-Kentucky border, arrived in Puerto Rico. Latest developments comes as the U.S. has begun enforcing blockade against Venezuela, which so far has involved the seizure of 2 tankers carrying Venezuela oil. Major escalation in the U.S. effort to oust President Nicolas Maduro. So he's coming for, you know, gotta get his name again, Gustavo Petro. Kremlin comments on latest talks with the U.S., you know, the so-called peace plan, you know, to end the Ukraine war, which he said that he'd have that war over in you know, in a matter of 10 hours, right? He said he would. Yeah. Moscow said it's maintaining its policy of not disclosing details regarding ongoing Ukraine peace negotiation. Dmitry met with the U.S. Special Envoy Witkoff, U.S. President Trump's son-in-law and White House official, this past weekend in Miami to discuss Washington's efforts to mediate resolution to the Ukraine conflict. Peskov refused to confirm or deny media reports that the Russian envoy had brought back 4 draft documents for Putin's compensation. Earlier Wednesday, Zelensky shared a 20-point peace framework with the media, which he said his side was discussed with the Babylonians, the proposed failed to address some key Russian concerns, such as Kiev's claims to former Ukraine territories that joined Russia in 2022, and its insistence on maintaining 800,000 strong standing army supported by NATO nations. So pretty much redrawing the plan. So you know that that's not going to work. Russia captures another Ukraine town while Zelensky still insists on altering the chump peace plan. Over the past 24 hours, Russian troops captured the settlement of Zherakino in the southwest Zaporizhia region, which is near that nuclear power plant. According to the Defense Ministry, Battle Group East unit kept advancing deep in the enemy's defenses and liberated the settlement of Zherakino. I can't pronounce it, but you know, they have caught that area. They've got that whole area. So, like everything else, though, you know, doesn't look like they're going to, you know, there's going to be any relenting. Now, like everything else, though, that hour of temptation is slowly but surely coming upon us. And as you know, and I've expressed that in the last two videos, especially those watching on BitChute, Odysee, and Rumble, because it's my first time being on YouTube in a while. I just recently lost my companion, my dog of 16 years, my Pomeranian, and so very, very sad day. And if you play back one of my videos, you can hear her crying in the background, and it's really hard to, there's not anything to snuff that out. Her last minutes were in very much pain. So, you know, needless to say, though, that I'm already feeling it. And like I said, if you ain't going through hardship, you ain't going through trials yet, the Most High probably ain't dealing with you, and you ain't going to survive what's coming. Because if your heart's not broken and you're not going through some shit, then the Most High is probably not dealing with you. That means that you're in the land of mirth and not in the house of mourning. You're in the wrong place. Because this is not a time to be happy. This is a time of war. This is a time of sorrow. The beginning of sorrows. You know, you got to check and see where you're at. You know, everything is gone. Okay, there's nothing here. There's nothing here worth investing in. As, you know, others will tell you that prosperity and all this other bullshit, and that the MOTB is not the implantable microchip. Well, we've been telling you for a very long time. And you're going to find out that Great Millstone was right all along. But this is for the elect's sake. We're the only ones that are going to make it. We're those that have understanding.
How long you got? You think? How long we got? Do you think before they unleash the FEMA camps on us?
I really don't know. I'd say that, you know, after this holiday, everything should start unfolding. And about a year, a little over a year, things should be really bad. But
You're not going to be here because you're not going to take the mark, right?
well,
Or are you going to take the mark?
I don't know when they'll introduce that. No, I won't be taking no mark. I don't know when they'll try to introduce that.
You think that you're strong enough? You're just going to say behead me? I don't want the mark. Behead me.
We don't get to go. You don't understand. They kill us when they're rounding people.
The Christians.
Even if they do round us, yeah, I'm going to be strong enough.
Do you think a lot of the Christians? I don't think any of the Christians are going to be able to hold up.
They're not Christians.
Once the mark is introduced, they're all going to take it.
Okay. They wouldn't be scared now. They wouldn't be obeying now.
Yeah, because these wacky-tacky Christians will take it. Because they believe that he is all love. You know, they teach that, you know, God is all love. And you know that's a farce. Because you're going to find out that there's a whole race of people that the Most High hates. And then it's just so happen to be the ones in power right now. So he hates every last one of you Edomites. He also hates you 2/3. You see. And you're going to be waking up to that everlasting shame because you had a chance to repent. The door was open to you, and you still rejected it, even knowing that you were an Israelite. So we told you you were an Israelite. We have the 12 tribes sign. See, we have it out there. We have the 100% truth. We've been out there. You just ain't listening. You ain't You're not even in fear. You don't even fear the Most High. You know, this should make you afraid, but it doesn't. Only the elect become afraid and do something about it. And then they go out and they teach. That's what happened to me. You know, I was very afraid, you know. Especially when I found out that, this truth, it's been there, but it's been hidden all along, you know. Waking up as to who I was. Even though I look like the heathen, yet at the same time, would prophesy that I'm an Israelite, you see. That door was open. Thanks to Great Millstone teaching that you're going to have a lot of foreigners. You're going to have a lot of people that look like the heathen that are Israelites. So, like everything else, though, yeah, I definitely could use prayers, just because I'm dealing with major loss right now, and I think that a lot of us are going through it in one form or another. But at the same time, though, also, I know that it's to strengthen and prepare me for the worst yet to come, 2025 was one of the worst fucking years ever, but I know that it gets worse from there, Hey, we're going to go through some shit before the kingdom is there, but man, we just can't wait to get to the next part of the movie. Israeli war minister vows to continue aggression against Gaza and 3 Arab countries, or states, as you will. Israeli Minister of Military Affairs Katz pledged to continue military assaults across the region, including Gaza, where mass civilian casualties and aid blockade have fueled one of the worst humanitarian crises in days. Israeli state will continue its operations against Lebanon, Syria, the Gaza Strip, and Yemen. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Chief of Staff Zamar were also in attendance. In Lebanon, we will continue to apply maximum force against Hezbollah. In Syria, Israeli state is not going to withdraw from Mount Hermon and the so-called security zone. And in the Gaza Strip, Israeli state remains committed to dismantling all territory. Because it's not even about Hamas. Hamas is just another group that they control anyways. Israeli war chief noted that the Tel Aviv regime will continue its strikes against Yemen, turning the 12-day blatant and unprovoked aggression against Iran back in June. Katz claimed the Israeli inflicted significant damage against Iran's nuclear and strategic capabilities in cooperation with, its Babylonian empire. Well, like everything else, though, you know as well as I do that it actually went a lot worse for them than what they admit, because when Iran responded, they took out a lot of shit, and of course the Israeli state media never told you how bad it was, but if you've caught the alternative news, then you already know it's bad. And like everything else, though, losing my pet of 16 years, my companion, my love, and I do say this, I said it yesterday, that, animals are, the beasts of the field are not in contempt with the Most High. They didn't sin against the Most High. So therefore, there is an innocence about them. But you see, He hurts the earth. He has always hurt the earth. And they're going to rejoice when the kingdom comes, and it can't come soon enough. Because the animals are dying. The planet is dying. Everything's getting destroyed because this fucking devil is in power. Israeli terrorists sprayed children with tear gas and beat sheep to death in attack against Palestinian home. Zionist settlers in the Israeli-occupied West Bank sprayed children with tear gas and beat several sheep to death as part of an overnight attack against a Palestinian home near the village of Samu and Hebron Hills as part of the territory. According to the Associated Press, Palestinian officials said the settlers smashed a window and door of the home and sprayed gas inside, sending 3 children under the age of 4 to the hospital. The settlers also entered a building housing sheep, and footage showed them beating the animals. The attack killed 3 sheep and wounded 4 others. So there's some surveillance footage there, and you can see what these goddamn devils are doing. And I can't wait till Yahweh Shai destroy every last fucking one of you. And you should despise them too. Because Amalek is the worst of the Edomites. And like everything else, though, you know that they're going to continue their occupation forever. You know, and if you see the new maps of Syria, as Syriana Analysis, which another good channel goes into, you know, they already have new maps that show that the Golan Heights ain't even a part of Syria anymore. And that the new ISIS leader of Syria, al-Jilani, made a deal with them long ago, a deal that Bashar al-Assad would never have agreed to, and that is that Syrian Golan Heights and newer territory would belong to the Israeli state. He wouldn't agree to that, but al-Jilani already agreed that before he even moved in. See, they were given all these weapons from Golan Heights to invade and to take over from Aleppo into Damascus. That's how they conquered all that, you know, because the Israeli state and Turkey helped them, along with the U.S. and all the other so-called coalition, right? But it's all about keeping the oil, because now you can see that it doesn't matter that al-Jilani's in power. They want the oil, they got the oil, and they're going to keep the oil, because that's what the Israeli secret plan is. The least of the flock is to have all the oil, which is why you're seeing all the seizures in Venezuela on the false claims that, oh, they're narco-terrorists. Says Pete Hegseth, the fucking douche. You know. So, anyhow, here's more.
Seems that Israel managed to kill 2 birds with 1 stone this year. Not only did they forcibly take Gaza from the Palestinians, but they've also managed to solidify their occupation of Syria's Golan Heights. All thanks to U.S. support, of course.
Yep.
And that support seems to have infected the Syrian government as well, judging by this map. Now, this was posted by an official Syrian ministry, and people quickly noticed that there was something missing.
It's a shame how to post a map without Golan.
You and others are unable to return the Golan Heights.
You traitors, terrorists, mercenaries, you've erased the Golan Heights from the map. You've already sold it to Israel.
Israel occupied the Golan Heights in 1967 and has been expanding, as it always does, further into the buffer zone, which was established in 1974 between Syria and Israel. The location is ideal, as it borders Israel, Lebanon, and Jordan, so it's very important in terms of regional security and military control. Now, there's also the water resources. Every year, there's a vote at the UN General Assembly where the majority of the international community demands Israel ends its occupation and withdraws, and this year was no exception.
The broad support for Syria's national position, particularly regarding its sovereignty over the occupied Syrian Golan, is clear. The resolution reaffirms that territory cannot be acquired by force and calls for Israel's withdrawal from the entire Syrian Golan, in line with the June 4, 1967 borders. It also stresses the illegality of Israeli settlements and other activities in the occupied Golan.
The UN General Assembly once again proves how disconnected it is from reality. Instead of addressing the crimes of the Iranian Axis and the dangerous activities of militias in Syria, it demands that Israel withdraw from the Golan Heights, a vital defense line that protects our citizens. Israel will not return to the 1967 lines and will not abandon the Golan. Not now, not ever.
123 countries voted in favor of the resolution. 7 voted against, including Israel and the United States. Hardly
Does that come as a surprise?
Washington recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights back in 2019. That's despite international outrage. And this year, Donald Trump took it a step further.
You need it so badly for so many other reasons. You need it for defense. You know, in the old days, before we had all the sophisticated radar and all the things, it was everything because you were up high. But I learned enough, and I signed the Golan Heights, the rights to the Golan Heights over to Israel. Nobody thought that was possible to get. They've been working on it for 70 years, Mark. 70 years. You know, planes would fly into places that have meetings that would last 2-3 days. All they talked about was the Golan Heights, right, Jason? And nobody ever did anything, but I did it, and we did it quickly, and I say, good luck to you.
It's unclear whether this is something that was discussed or negotiated with Syria's new leader during that historic face-to-face in the White House last month. Up until then, Ahmad al-Shara seemed determined not to give up any territory.
Syria will not give up a single grain of its sand. This is an oath we swore before the people. It means we must protect all of Syrian soil and the unification of Syria. The regime fell in battle. I believe that unifying Syria also requires many measures before we can achieve it.
Maybe that's the price he paid to go from America's most wanted with a bounty on his head to being rolled out the red carpet in Washington. It's still unclear, as there has been no official confirmation regarding Golan Heights from the Syrian government. But what we do know, however, is that locals there claim Israeli incursions have become more brazen, frequent, and violent, and that's always a recipe for disaster. Sadly, Americans and Israelis refuse to give up cooking.
And like everything else, though, you know, what will cause Damascus to cease in that day? I believe that the Israeli state, because the other scriptures confirm it, that they are just going to continue to the point that they take Damascus, and then Damascus gets completely destroyed, obliterated because of them. Because again, you know, their habitations shall be desolate because of them. You know, and you know, the scriptures really go into that a lot. Turkey detains 115 alleged Islamic State group members. Oh boy. Oh, okay, so they're going after ISIS. Yeah, not going after Kurds this time. No, they're just going after ISIS. They're not even talking about YPG or PKK anymore. They're going after ISIS. But don't they have ISIS already in Syria? I mean, when you think about it, Hayat al-Sham is a breakoff from ISIS. So ISIS versus ISIS, all these other coalition, all that is to go after ISIS. The illusion that they're fighting ISIS. You know, they're trying to maintain stability. No, it's about the oil and keeping the oil. And who has control of the oil? The U.S., the king of Babylon, has it. They have the oil, and they're not going to give it up. That's what Trump said in the first term. Even Bashar al-Assad had acknowledged, well, at least that's an enemy that you know. That you know, instead of trying to pretend that you're our friend, that you're trying to help us, at least you're telling us straight out the gate that you're here for our oil. Some 115 alleged members of ISIS group suspected of planning attacks during the end of the so-called holidays, right, have been arrested in Turkey. So, you know, they got to give you the illusion that they're helping to fight ISIS. Following intelligence indicating that the ISIS organization was planning attacks during, you know what, you know, the prosecutor's office ordered the detention of 137 people, 115 of whom been arrested. The Istanbul Prosecutor General's office said in a statement, Turkey shares a 900-kilometer border with Syria where ISIS cells are still active, and where the Islamic State was accused of an attack in mid-December that killed 2 U.S. terrorists and 1 civilian, because the U.S. are the greatest terrorist of all. You know, but that was a false flag. You know, everybody knows that that was a false flag, and that was just so they could maintain their presence in Syria indefinitely, just like Gaza be indefinite. So like everything else, though, you know, again, you know, you can find me on BitChute, Rumble, and Odysee, just in case this video gets a strike. Hopefully you get to see it before it gets a strike, you know, and hopefully it doesn't get a strike. Hopefully I can keep on doing YouTube, you know, but we'll just see, right? So like everything else, though, you know, we know that Damascus is the heart of the Valley of Jehoshaphat, a.k.a. the Valley of Yehoshaphat, you know, Yahweh's judgment against the heathen, especially Edom. Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20. You know, I read this one a lot. Therefore hear the plan of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, that he has devised against Edom, and hear what he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely they will be dragged away, even the least of the flock, a.k.a. these Amalekites, these, you know, small hats. Surely he will make their dwelling place desolate because of them. Behold, he will mount up and fly like an eagle and spread his wings against the city of Basra. And that's talking about when Yahushai comes to deliver the elect and to destroy this place once and for all. And in that day, the heart of the mighty warriors of Edom will be like the heart of a woman in childbirth. You know, because again, you know, the full wrath of the Most High, Lord of hosts, which is his name, is going to destroy them. But at the same time, Damascus will be destroyed as well. Concerning Damascus, Hamath and Arpad are perplexed and shamed, which is that valley. You know, they have heard bad news. They are disheartened, troubled, and anxious like a storm-tossed sea, which cannot be calmed. Damascus has become helpless. She has turned away to flee. Terror has seized her. Anguish and distress have gripped her like a woman in childbirth. You know, and that is talking about the nuclear destruction coming to Damascus. Why has the renowned city not been deserted, the city of my joy? Therefore her young men will fall in her streets, and all the men of war will be destroyed in that day, says the Lord of hosts, which is ultimately nuclear destruction. Everything ends right there. Damascus, Syria is what begins the finale of World War III, but like everything else, though, they're going to usher in the MOTB, Yeah, our temptation's going to be here before that happens. And we can't wait for all that to happen because I am tired of all the suffering. I'm tired of the animals suffering. I'm tired of suffering. You know, everything is suffering because Esau remains in power. And like everything else, though, you know, lots of things that led to the cancer. My dog can be, you know, placed upon many things. The food is poisoned. I know they use pesticides in the lawns. It's not safe for anything here, you know. It's just a miracle that we're still alive because he is poisoning the food. He's poisoning the ground. You know, everything is poison, you know. But like everything else, though, you know, we can't wait for the very end of this. Got one more here and close this out. For that, I want to say Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadosh, Wa Abal Babal. Brakatham, Jehovah elect, Shalom. And like everything else, though, another false flag is coming. They'll probably blame it on ISIS or some other shit like that. But Israeli state is planning another attack against Babylon to draw them in. This is a spoiler alert. Shalom.
Hey, remember when Charlie Kirk got shot and people realized that Google Analytics has a feature you can use to see what people have searched around an event, and that someone discovered that people were searching Charlie Kirk's death before the day that he was actually shot? Remember that? And remember all of those other major events that you can also look on Google Analytics and you can see that people were searching that same very thing before the event even happened? Well, a new one was just discovered. In the last 90 days, Israel has had a spike of 100 or more people searching the term you can see at the top, Disneyland terrorist. Here's another one, 100 people or more that have searched ISIS attacks Disneyland. And here's another one, Disneyland bombing. Over 100 people have searched that in the last 90 days in the country of Israel. And here's another one in the last 90 days by the nation of Israel, Disneyland attacks. It's awesome that they've managed to leave this tool up for people to use by Google, because it's going to be the downfall, or at least we're going to be able to disrupt a lot of these plans.
President Trump promised to get America, as you know, out of foreign wars. Not.
And like everything else, though, you know, there's more to come.